James, take it away. Thank you.
Woo!
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys for having me today. My goal today, guys, with everybody here is just to give you some motivation, inspiration, and leave with a little bit of hope in your hearts today. So my name is James Richardson. I'm 29 years old. I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when I was born, 2 days old. The doctors told me I had 19 years to live. So in essence, I was born with a death sentence. As many of us know, back in the day, cystic fibrosis was a childhood illness. The average life expectancy was between 13 to 15 years old. So bringing my parents, bringing myself into this world as a young child, dealing with an expectancy of death at such a young age, it's something that people with cystic fibrosis have to really look deep inside of themselves and figure out why they're here on this world, why they're here in this world. And that was something that I dealt with my entire childhood. Dealing with the fact that I'm not gonna live too long and only live maybe till 19 years old, being told I would never play sports, never have children, never be able to build muscle, never have a job, never be in relationships, is something that takes a toll on a child's life. And it allows us to grow older as children. It makes us deal with these thoughts of not being around, the thoughts that we deal with when they're 80, 90 years old at the end of our lives. Now we're dealing with these thoughts when we're children. So I really had to analyze my situation and looking into cystic fibrosis as a child, researching my illness, figuring out what I'm gonna do with my life. I wanted to be successful, I wanted to have a job, I wanted to live like a regular human being. Anticipating this life expectancy of 19, my parents, I was lucky I had a great mom by my side who researched cystic fibrosis, put me in every sport that I could, made sure that I was active and tried to fight against CF. My entire life, guys, I've been a fighter, fighting against the illness, against the odds, against proving people wrong that have told me that I couldn't do things in my life. So as I approached this life expectancy date the doctors gave me of 19 years old, I really thought to myself, is this it for me? Is this something that I'm only gonna be here on this earth for 19 years, I'm never gonna have relationships? Why do I have this illness? Why is this something that I was born with and none of my friends had and none of my people around me understood what it was? I kept this a secret, guys, for my entire life until I was 26 years old. From the years of 19 to 26, by the way, I lived past 19. Right. That was the first success in my life. So I lived past 19 years old, and as I'm getting older and into my 20s, becoming a young adult and a young man, I started becoming sicker and sicker. As I'm researching my illness and looking online and these times in my life where I was by myself in a dark room researching cystic fibrosis, and all the symptoms that I was having were equaling death. As I got past my 21st, 22nd birthday and became a young adult, I realized that I was here for a reason, and that was to advocate for the illness, give back, and show people that if you have cystic fibrosis, you can still build muscle, you can still be successful, you can still have a job, a relationship, good friends. So I'm here to speak to you guys today because from 19 to 26 years old was one of the worst times in my entire life. I was dying. My lung function was at 35%. So I was living my life with less than half of a lung. I was working 80 hours a week at the time, driving myself into the ground, trying to be a normal human being. Now with 35% lung function, working 80 hours a week, I was still working out 6 days a week and boxing 4 days a week. I was running a major company at the time. I couldn't go 30 seconds without coughing. I would wake up every single day with chronic headaches. I would cough so much that I would cough all my ribs out of place. Every 3 days I would have to go to a chiropractor to put my ribs back into place so that I could breathe and function in my normal life. I prayed to God every day for a miracle to heal my lungs and to make me feel like a normal human being. As my 25th, 26th birthday approached, I had an option. I had two options actually. My doctors told me I either need to get a lung transplant or we have this new drug called tricafta. So after debating back and forth whether I wanted to get a lung transplant and who knows how long that would take, I was dying, guys. I was in a position in my life where I couldn't breathe. I was suffocating every night. I'd be scared to go to sleep because I would have cough attacks the entire night. So I wouldn't sleep. I would have cough attacks. Now, cough attack, if anybody doesn't know somebody with cystic fibrosis who has a cough attack, we cough until we have no air. In that millisecond of time, you have to tell your brain to breathe. In that millisecond of time, we also are connecting with death. Because I've connected so many times in my life with death and having to deal with those feelings of dying. And it's something that I can never explain to people when they ask me what that feels like. It's just something that I hope that none of you will ever have to experience in your life. As I became 26, I was back to this decision of, do I get a lung transplant or do I start this new medication that nobody knows anything about really? So, as I'm figuring out what to do, which is a huge decision for a 26-year-old to figure out whether to get new lungs put into his body, and at the time, the life expectancy for somebody with new lungs is 5 years. I have to take rejection drugs to be able to not be sicker again also with these new lungs. So I decided to take tricafta. Now for 26 years, I never knew what it was like to take a deep breath. I coughed chronically. I could never go on dates, go to the movies, talk to people, ever be present in a moment, because I'm always coughing and I'm always thinking about that next cough. So as I took this first dose of tricafta, I was so scared. The doctors told me there's all these side effects. My liver could shut down. I could have all these different things happening in my body. I took the first dose of tricafta, and within 2 hours, all the mucus in my lungs started to purge. Now, purging means it's just coming out in globs and globs and globs. Now, the way I explained how it feels to have cystic fibrosis, picture somebody pouring a bottle of super glue down your lungs and it never stops. So you're always coughing out mucus and glue. So as I take this first dose of tricafta, I start purging all the mucus out of my lungs. And within 30 minutes after that, I took my first deep breath. So I always tell people, guys, I started my life at 26. I'm 29 now, so I'm technically only 3 years old. So I'm 29 years old now. Before my first dose of tricafta, I was at 35% lung function. I went into my CF clinic appointment 3 months later. I was at 116% lung function. I had one of the highest lung functions they said they've ever seen. Now this contributes to the working out, staying fit, and healthy. This is what I preach to the people around me, and in my communities now, I advocate for cystic fibrosis. I create free workout plans and give the people around me equipment to help them build the muscle and see the success that they need to be able to live those healthy lives. I really appreciate you guys having me today, because this is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Speak in front of people, tell my story. I've been doing it online for a long time, advocating with different foundations. And there's something that I want to leave with you guys before I go. When there's dark times in your life and you feel like you're being buried, just remember you're being planted. Thank you guys.